Welcome to Poland. If you're just joining us here on the channel, my name is Hawkins and I'm a traveling singer-songwriter, and today is my first day here in Krakow.
I'm working on my foreign voice.
We are here on the most beautiful day in Krakow, and we're starting off this adventure with my favorite way to start any adventure, which is a free walking tour. This entire street smells like bread, and it's incredible. We've started our walking tour just outside of St. Mary's Basilica, which is one of the most iconic sites to see here in Krakow. There is a very large Catholic population. In fact, 99% of those churches are in fact Catholic. The remaining 1% of churches here are Protestant or specifically Greek Orthodox. St. Mary's Church is famous for having the largest Gothic altar in all of Europe. And the cathedral has two very iconic towers. One is taller than the other, and it is from that taller tower that every hour on the hour we hear a trumpet call. Now, this trumpet call is a very long-standing tradition here in Krakow. Our tour guide told us that there are two trumpeters up there at all times, and every hour they flip a coin to decide who gets to play that hour's trumpet call. And apparently, you can only become one of these trumpeters if you are a retired firefighter, which I thought was very interesting.
I don't take it in big numbers. I could get used to this kind of hunger. Everyone deserves a lonesome slumber, so I don't take it in big numbers.
We're just walking through the old city walls here. They used to encircle the entire old town, which of course, at the time, hundreds of years ago, was Krakow in its entirety. And now Krakow is much larger and includes what at the time were just neighboring villages. This is a beautiful park, and the pathway that you can walk along is where the moat used to be outside of the city walls. Our guide just mentioned that while it is a beautiful day and Krakow is a city known for fun, which is to say, obviously, it is a place people come to visit to drink. Drinking is not allowed on the street or in parks here, which I think is true of most cities around the world, but I've heard it mentioned many more times here than anywhere else, which leads me to believe that might be something that they're stricter about here in Krakow than maybe some other cities. On the topic of alcohol, however, this bar is apparently the cheapest place to drink in Krakow. It is a chain, so there's a couple locations, but apparently you can get a beer for about $2, and it's a good place to try lemon vodka, And then there's a place next door that has cherry vodka, which are both very popular drinks here in Krakow.
Small doses, little tastes are all I need. Small doses are all it takes to feel the release. And like winter roses get replaced, I'll wipe my slate clean until these small doses get a hold of me.
I'm currently standing in a beautiful courtyard in the oldest building in the oldest university here in Krakow. It was founded in the year 1364 by the Polish king Kazimierz the Great. One of the most famous previous students here is Nicholas Copernicus, who was an astronomer who very famously and correctly theorized that the sun was the center of our universe and not the earth, as was previously believed. There are so many parks here in Krakow. I'm so impressed. Obviously, it helps that I'm here with perfect weather, but the city is so beautiful. I certainly don't mean to imply that I expected otherwise, but I do feel like the reputation that Krakow has undersells just how gorgeous the city is. There's so much incredible architecture, lovely parks. It's so, I don't know, at least so far, I think it's up there with the most beautiful cities in Europe. Jared's saving me. It's hot. We are here at Wawel Castle. You may hear children screaming in the background. There are a lot of people here, including one very angry child. I certainly cannot be surprised that at the main tourist destination here in Krakow, on a beautiful summer day, it's crowded. And in fact, the courtyard actually doesn't even look that crowded because it's so large, but there are a lot of people here. Parts of this complex actually date back to the year 970, but this courtyard, you'll notice, doesn't look quite so old. It was heavily influenced by the Italian Renaissance because the original version of the castle burnt down in the 16th century, and when it was rebuilt, they went for an Italian Renaissance feel. I think I would argue that Wawel Castle is the one thing, if you have mere hours in Krakow for whatever reason, this is the thing to visit because you have the castle, the cathedral, incredible grounds, and of course, we're on a hill, so the views are just amazing. So far today, I have noticed quite a lot of construction around Krakow and at these major tourist sites, and I do wonder if that's a seasonal thing. I feel like this isn't the season when you would have a lot of construction because it seems like a high tourist season, but it's interesting. And maybe, you know, in a city so old, with so much old architecture, they just have to have a lot of construction at all times. If you can ignore the construction in the foreground, I do really recommend walking away from the cathedral, because from a distance you can get a much better sense of this sort of piecemeal architecture. It has all these different sections that seem to be different styles, and I think they work together really, really nicely. It's a really interesting and really beautiful building. Currently a huge line to get into the cathedral, so I think we're gonna go and grab some pierogies, get some lunch, and then come back another day probably. But I'm glad to have seen the grounds for now. One of the things I love the most about starting off a trip with a walking tour is that you get recommendations from a local right off the bat. Our tour guide recommended this place called Banja Luka. Please forgive my day one in Poland pronunciation of the name. Apparently it is a student bar, and that is because the prices are extremely affordable and they have tons of drinks as well as some traditional Polish food. It definitely has the vibe of a student bar. It is open from 10 in the morning until 6 in the morning, which is frankly incredible. I really appreciated that our guide pointed out that pierogies are historically a food eaten by the poor. It is not a dish that you're supposed to spend 10, 15, God forbid 20 euros on. So while there certainly are many fancier places to get pierogies, in some ways this feels a little more authentic, and it is certainly more affordable. So I'm very excited. We just sat down and they have a very extensive drink menu. I'm not trying to have too much to drink this early in the day. However, I do want to try a local beer. I noticed on the menu here that they have something called beer syrup, and it's free, and I've never heard of beer syrup before. I asked the bartender which flavor of the beer syrup is the most popular, and she said raspberry, so I went for it. I can't say that the raspberry beer syrup is something that I would necessarily order a second time, but I'm certainly glad to have tried it, and it is a very pretty color. But now, the thing I am most excited for are the meat pierogies. These pierogies were the equivalent of 4.50 euros, and the beer itself was only 2.50 euros. So all in all, a very affordable first lunch here in Krakow. We are back in the central square, and I wanted to check out the Cloth Hall. This is a very iconic building right in the center of the square, and it is still an active market, though it's obviously not the major trading place that it once was. Back in the 15th century, the Cloth Hall was a very important place for international trade. Nowadays, it's a great place to buy a Polish souvenir. All of the stalls seem to sell kind of similar things, and overall, it definitely feels similar to the Grand Bazaar in Istanbul in that it's a very important historical place, and nowadays it's mostly souvenir shops. Just come back to my hostel to freshen up a bit, and I realized that now is the perfect time to tell you all about where I'm staying here in Krakow. I'm thrilled to say that I am partnering with Greg and Tom Hostels on this video. They are a hostel chain. They actually have 3 different locations here in the city of Krakow. I'm staying here in Greg and Tom Home Hostel, but they have 2 other locations, Greg and Tom Party Hostel and Greg and Tom Beer House Hostel. Home Hostel is absolutely where you want to stay if you want the chillest version of a hostel experience. It is very calm here. Everyone is super friendly. It kind of feels like the perfect mix of staying in an Airbnb or a homestay, but you have all the perks of socializing at a hostel. Greg and Tom Beer House Hostel is the best option if you want to be right in the middle of the action. It is located inside the Old Town. There is a bit more of a party atmosphere here. You are right in the center of the Old Town, so it's very, very easy to get around and to come back to the hostel during the day if you need a little break. Greg and Tom Party Hostel is exactly what it sounds like. This is the place to stay if you are looking for the most exciting party weekend here in Krakow. No matter which of their 3 locations you choose, you do get all of the perks at any of the Greg and Tom hostel locations. So that means you get free breakfast every day, you get free dinner every night, you can go on their pub crawl if you so choose, or attend any other events or socializing that is happening at any of their locations. They have both private rooms and dorm rooms. They have kitchens where you can cook your own food, but you don't need to because there are free breakfasts and free dinners. No matter what kind of hostel experience you're looking for, Greg and Tom has a hostel for you. Good morning. It is another beautiful day here in the city of Krakow, and we have a lot more sightseeing on the agenda. We've decided to start off the day at the Underground Museum, which is right here in the central square, located underneath the Cloth Hall. The museum highlights Krakow's medieval history, and you can actually see vendor stalls that have been excavated that date back to the Middle Ages. I've heard that this is a very popular museum here in Krakow, so it's probably a good idea to buy your tickets in advance online. However, if you want to buy them in person, like I did, you have to make sure you head over to the visitor center at the Historical Museum of Krakow. It's also located here on the central square, but not by the entrance to the museum. The Underground Museum is definitely interesting. I wouldn't say that it's a must-do here in Krakow. I think it's more if you're someone who's particularly interested in medieval history, then I would visit. It's a lot of reading. There are a lot of signs. So there is a lot of information, but it just kind of felt like a lot to take in. Now it's lunchtime and we are headed to a bar Mleczny. That translates to milk bar, and it's not because milk is the main thing that they serve. It is called that because back during World War II, when meat products were rationed, dairy products were more affordable. So now these are very popular canteens. They're all over Krakow and they sell really good food for very, very affordable prices. I did read also that they get some sort of government subsidy, which is how they're able to have such affordable food. It's definitely an important part of the culture here in Krakow. So I got 2 dishes here that are very traditionally Polish. I got bigos, which is sauerkraut and meat. It's kind of like a stew. And then the other thing I got was, of course, more dumplings, but these are in a mushroom sauce and they look totally different from the pierogies that I've been having so far. I am so glad we came here. I think this maybe has been the best meal I've had so far in Poland. And everything's been good, but this definitely felt the most authentic. Now, did I need 2 dishes? No, I definitely over-ordered, but I'm only here for so long and I want to try all the different dishes. In total, my meal was about $14 US, which is pretty good considering I really ordered 2 meals and could have had half the food, but it was also good. Right now we are walking to the Jewish quarter. The neighborhood is called Kazimierz. It's definitely a very vibrant and cultural neighborhood nowadays, in addition to being, of course, a very historically important area of Krakow as well. In addition to sightseeing and museums, you can also find some great cafes, bars, restaurants, even vintage shopping. During World War II, the Jewish people living here in Kazimierz were cast out and forced to live in a ghetto outside of the city. From what I read, the neighborhood was largely abandoned after that until the movie Schindler's List was filmed in this neighborhood, And I think that had a lot to do with the area becoming popular again. And thankfully nowadays the Jewish culture is very alive and well here in this neighborhood. There are lots of kosher restaurants, and apparently there is a Jewish cultural festival that goes on every year as well.
When I get bored, like I know I will, I'll trade this in for a different pill, and you can watch me try to bend, watch me try to break. When my arms get tired of holding these poses, I'll be the one who exposes that small doses might be all that I can take. Small doses, little taste are all I need. Small doses are all it takes to feel the release. And like winter roses are in place, I won't try to get clean until these small doses. I hope they get, I hope they get, I hope they get.
Walking around the Jewish quarter, you see lots of young people out at bars, looking through vintage shops. There's definitely a very active, artsy feel to this neighborhood. At the same time, the history here is so prevalent and you feel it just walking through the streets. Maybe the greatest example of this contrast is at the iconic filming location of Schindler's List. You have these plaques on the wall explaining the history of what the Jews here went through during World War II and the Holocaust. But then you also have vintage shops and bars with people drinking outside right next to it. And I think that really represents how this neighborhood feels. It is very much a mix of past and present. Right now I'm walking over to the Old Synagogue, which is the oldest synagogue in Krakow. It is no longer an active synagogue. They don't hold services there because it has been turned into a museum. But there are, of course, several synagogues that are still active here in the Jewish quarter in Krakow. Another no longer active synagogue is Wolf Popper Synagogue, which has been turned into a bookstore. And I believe that is not far from the old synagogue. So I'm going to try to stop there as well. We decided to come back to Greg and Tom Home Hostel to take advantage of the incredible free dinners that they offer. Not only was the food so good, but it was a great chance to meet and chat with some of the other guests staying at the hostel. We met people from so many different countries all over the world, and it was a really fun way to spend the evening. Before we called it a night, we decided we had to try one of the iconic shot bars here in Krakow. So we headed out to try some flavored vodka shots, and let me tell you, they were surprisingly delicious. If it wasn't already extremely obvious from every other part of this video, I have had so much fun here in Krakow. I am so thrilled to finally have visited here after many, many years of it being on my travel list and for one reason or another not making it here. I'm so thrilled to finally have made it to Poland. Thankfully, I have more Poland videos on the way, so please make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay tuned because there's more coming. As always, the music in this video was my original music. I've linked it in the video description, and you can always find it online wherever you listen to music by searching Claire Hawkins. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you from next week's video.
I'm working on my forehead.